welcome to Rapid Reviews Radio Podcast, episode 199. Holy crap. One before 200. I can math. I'm very good at it. I am your co-host, Kiley Wilde, and I'm joined by my ever-present co-host, Pete Beckett.
Hello.
And a very special guest, Tim from the Retro Gaming Revival.
Hello, how are you?
We are great, and we're very, very, very happy to have you here. I just saw in chat that they have started a prediction. So try to ignore that so we can go on with the show. But what we like to do here is to get everybody kind of loosey-goosey and into the show. So, Tim, how's your week been? Have you played anything interesting? And let us know.
A good week. What have I been playing? I'm kind of jumping around a few things. I was trying to play through the Batman games because it was revealed that I had never played any of the Arkham games, and I was shamed and told I have to play them immediately. And then, just as it happens, there's a deal on PlayStation Plus for like getting the Arkham trilogy for like a silly amount off. So I think I can't remember how much I paid for it, but it wasn't a lot. So I started playing the first one. So I've been playing through Batman Arkham. But then in the meantime, I also what grabbed my attention was that I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right, but Iouden Chronicles 100 Heroes.
Iouden
I'm not sure
Chronicles.
about Iouden. I was like, I don't know what that word is, but I'll attempt it. Iouden Chronicles 100 Heroes. I started playing that, and that's really good. That's my kind of game. I really like JRPGs. I have played a bit of Sudoku, or Sudoku. Again, I can't pronounce the names. I get that, like, Sudoku 2 is like meant to be a really good RPG, but I never actually made it through 1.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like not a follow-up to them, but people are saying it's like a spiritual successor. It's taking a lot of influence from those games. And off the bat, I found that you get a lot of cool stuff right away. You know, like some of these RPGs, you go in and all you can do is attack, and you haven't unlocked the magic yet, and you haven't unlocked runes yet, and it takes a while, a lot of story before you start to do anything interesting. From this, right from the word go, you can do some cool stuff in battles, and it kind of gradually introduces more features. And the first area you go in, there's some like different events during fights, and you can do like hero combos and things like this. I was like, yeah, I'm all in for this. This is great. So really enjoying that at the moment. So that's probably going to get more of my time. But I am going to try and juggle Batman as well because I want to kind of get through that. But sure. I find I am a little bit like a cat chasing a red light when it comes to picking my games. Cause I'm like, oh, that looks good. So does that. So does that. So does that. And I was like, I have to really be strict for myself. It's like, no, you're playing this game. Play this game until you finish it. Stop changing your games. So try to be a little bit more disciplined with that. And then in the meantime, I just due to my lifestyle, I've got 2 young kids. I don't always get free range of the TV, so I am quite into handheld gaming at the moment. I never used to be that into handheld gaming, but now I'm like, I can sneakily pick up my handheld and play games while they're watching a Pixar movie and things like that, and get a little bit more gaming done. So I've actually revisited going back to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Because I never actually got all of the medals on it, and I never got the DLC. So I'm like, I'll get all the DLC for all the extra tracks, but I'm going to want to get gold in every track first. And I'm currently on the mirror courses, so doing that. So yeah, quite a bit of gaming this week.
Oh, that's quite a fair bit.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
And it's a strange one, actually, going back to your Iouden Chronicles, because you mentioned Suikoden or Suikoden, however it's pronounced. Yeah. People pronounce it differently, so it's very unusual. I don't get it myself, but hey, it's a good list. It's a good list.
Yeah. I like what Jenny says. She says they'll move on to the handhelds, and you'll get the TV back one day.
Yeah, one day I will get some TV. Oh, well, actually, my kids will slowly get into games now. Like, they are at an age where they can play some games, but they it's that hand-eye coordination. It's not quite there. Like, if they can play on a tablet, fine, but trying to get them to play a game with a controller and understand that you press something here and something happens there, it's quite hard for them to get the grasp of now. So, but we have been playing the Bluey game, because Bluey came out on Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah.
All I would say is don't drop money on that game because it's very short and not very good. But if you've got young kids and you're trying to teach them how a controller works, it's ideal because all you're doing is walking around, jumping over stuff, picking things up. You're just walking around collecting stuff, and it's all references in the show. So it's a very simple, nice, like, kids game. So I've been playing a little bit of that with them to kind of get them used to the idea. But I'm not going to juice anything difficult yet because they're too easily put off. If I get them to play a game where they're like bad things happen, they'll be like, no, don't play this. So I'm going to try and get them to play something simple first.
That's fair.
Mike says, Bluey is great for easy 1,000 gamer
score. Yeah.
They
it's
also
very
said the
easy.
same about King Kong.
Yeah. It's easy on like it's meant to be easy. It's not if you're a grown up that happens to like Bluey, because a lot of parents do actually like the show. It's not for you. It's for the kids. It's not a challenging game at all. And again, I wouldn't have dropped money on it. As much as I appreciate the game, it was on Game Pass. I was like, I'll play it. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't drop 30, 40 quid on it when it came out. Because I was like, oh, actually, this is really disappointing in terms of content, because it's over very quick.
It was free with a Game Pass subscription.
I know. Yes. I'm playing it.
There you go.
There you go.
Gotta find the long dogs.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, look for that stream in the future. That's sarcasm. So, Pete, same question to you. How's your week been? What you playing?
My week's been really nice, actually. Like, I had the back end of the week off because working last weekend meant that I could. So, just been pretty busy this weekend, just out and about, enjoying the sun, not being a typical basement-dwelling gamer. But this week I have... I know, it's weird. Some gamers like actually being outside. But yeah, over the course of the week, I've been playing a couple of things. Today, mainly, I've been playing a little bit of multiplayer on Super Mario Bros. Wonder with my nephew, which has been really cool. So he's nearly 5, so he's only just started playing games, and yeah, he's really enjoying Mario Wonder, and I'm enjoying playing it with him too. It's been really cool. Main game that I've been playing and continuing to play is Fallout 3, because I'm just a statistic now at this point. After the Fallout show came out, I'm just one of those numbers. So continuing from last week, I continued on my quest and blew up Megaton.
Still can't believe you did that.
Yeah,
I know, but it was fun.
Did you feel anything? Did you feel pity, sadness, remorse, guilt?
For Moriarty? No, never. That guy is a bumhole. Yeah, so did that, and then I've been just doing quests in Tenpenny Tower and just walking around, just doing stuff like that. So went into the camp and killed all the ghouls, which was that's a really fun quest, actually.
You definitely play it different than I do, Pete, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah. Now I'm trying to actually go on to the main quest, and I've encountered a bit of a problem in the fact that I don't know where to go because Moriarty didn't tell me where to go first.
You blew him up.
I know where. I think I know where to go. I think I need to go and find Galaxy News Radio, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I need to scale the wasteland. But I was pretty surprised. I knew this happened, but to actually see it in person. But Moira survives, which was a bit weird.
Yes.
And the dialogue tree that you have with her about turning into a ghoul is quite funny.
Yeah.
So yeah. So this is my Tim, this is the first playthrough I've done on Fallout 3 for many years, and I actually went the good route last time, so I'm trying to be a savage arsehole this time around.
Just to see what else opens up.
Yeah, so I am incredibly rich this time around.
Oh, that's the thing about Bethesda games. Ooh, what a parallel for what we're going to talk about later.
What was it, the thing I used to do? You can go to pickpocket people. I think this is in Fallout, and you can put like a mine in their pocket.
Yes.
Or you pickpocket them, so you go and try to them. You go, oh yeah, I'm gonna leave a mine in there, and then walk away, and they walk off, and then just blow up.
Yep.
That's always a funny way to.
Oh, I'm so good at that. Yeah, I did encounter Minefield as well, and oh my god, Minefield is horrible.
Oh goodness.
Oof.
I've not played it yet, but I have got Fallout 4 on Oculus because it was on a special discount.
Oh right.
I think I've got it on Steam. Actually, I think I've got it on Steam VR. It was showing up as only being like £10 or something. So I'll grab that. So I've not started playing that yet, but yeah, that's definitely on my backlog to just go through. And it's in VR as well. So playing Fallout 4 for the first time in VR should be fun. But also coming back to the weather, it's not really a good time of year to play VR because it's really hot wearing a headset and it's this warm. So I tend to go through phases. I play VR more in the winter than in summer because you get really sweaty in the headset, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can be bothered to like put a headset and it's heated and doing stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, you might be why you've lost about £10 before when you come out of that headset.
I'm currently underground. That's not a joke. I am in a basement underground. When I first got down here, it was nice and cool. I am now under studio lights and a headset, and I am sweating to. And I'm trying not to turn my fan on because it will be loud and annoying.
Yes, I remember all those shows where you used to keep your fan and your heater on in the early days.
Yeah.
And then I wonder why there's a whirring in the background noise. I'm like, okay.
But yes, so we'll quickly go through my week, which is mostly I played Content Warning on Friday with Danker, who's in chat, and middle-aged gamer guy, who's also in chat. And as I mentioned earlier, they kept cracking each other up, and it was hilarious. You should go watch the VOD. It is funny. It is actually kind of scary too. There's a lot of me screaming. Not like, screaming where it's annoying. Well, maybe it's annoying. I don't know. It's funny. I laughed. Oh, great. Max says it's also on TikTok now. The laughing bit, anyway. Yes, he and Danker, they laugh so hard that they lose their breath. So I encourage anyone to go check those out. It is funny. Now, as far as the game itself, it is very, very, very good for a multiplayer co-op. It is very similar to that other game that I'm never going to remember the name of. Last Chance, Last something. I don't know.
Well, do you want to describe the premise of the game, and then maybe we'll know?
Yes. Oh, wait, of the other game I'm describing?
Content Warning.
Okay, Content Warning is you have up to 4 people. You join in, and you're all little content makers. Lethal Company, that's it. It's very similar to Lethal Company. And you have this little streaming house. So whatever that house was called with what's his face, was it the 10 house? Anyway, so you all are content makers, and you go out and you get a video camera, you get a flashlight, and you hop in this little diving bell and go down under the ground where there's monsters. They're very similar to the Lethal Company kind of style. And you have to record them for content. And then you come back up, you put it all on a DVD, you upload the DVD to SpookTube instead of YouTube. And then your kind of progress or whatever is marked by the views you get. You have a view goal in 3 days that you have to reach. And if you reach it, then you get another view goal. Yes, we reached it and we got another view goal. But the actual fun part is the interaction with the actual monsters and your teammates. Because some of you are running off screaming, and some 2 of you are dying laughing in the corner. And so it ends up being quite funny. And actually, I think I said Content Warning actually generated a lot of content. So there you go. You can't beat that. Yeah, so we're going to move on from there. I am really sweating. That is not a joke.
No, it is quite warm.
Even underground in Ireland, where we have a thunderstorm warning. But the real reason we are here today is because we are going to discuss Microsoft/Xbox. Now, we have a little guest that might want to pop in.
That's
at any second.
Brilliant. I love the way you said little guest.
No, that is not what I meant. I meant it as in just a little like do just what's popping.
So a small guest is joining us.
No. He's the best ever, and he's really hot. How about that, Pete?
Well, I think we're all pretty hot. It's quite warm here.
No, that is true. But if he wants to just dial in while Pete gives us a very, very quick background, and then we are going to talk about Microsoft/Xbox.
Right, so for those who are living under a rock, this week it was announced that Microsoft are shuttering 4 studios, which are, and oh god, I have to actually find out. So it's Arkane Austin, Tango Gameworks, Alphadog, and Roundhouse Games. So this was announced on the 7th of May. And let's just say that the internet had a collective meltdown about a couple of these studios, whilst a couple of the studios I think people didn't really particularly make much mention of, but I think it was mostly because Tango Gameworks, who were the developers behind Hi-Fi Rush, and Arkane Austin were the developers behind Redfall and various other titles over the years, including Dishonored and Prey. So they have quite a pedigree, and it's quite interesting to see that it's 4 Bethesda studios rather than Microsoft's own first-party studios that they set up themselves rather than actually purchased. So this is coming off the back of the fact that even like as early as January this year, Microsoft had announced that they were cutting 1,900 jobs in January, including those at Activision Blizzard. So, yeah, this has not exactly been a good year for Microsoft so far in terms of job losses. So we're going to discuss all of that, and we are joined by a small mag.
Hi, I'm Small Mag.
Did not say that. But yes, I really want to get into this because because I have a point of view from business.
Yeah, I think I might take a different point of view than most people here as well.
Interesting. But Max, we will start with you as you have to run off. Yes. So.
Yes, you are short on time.
I'm gonna live that down.
That was very good. I wish I could. Can I do the trumpet thing? I can't do the trumpet thing because I'm not set up for that. But there you go.
Oh well, I can do tis.
Go on then.
Okay. But yes. Oh. Okay, Pete. Look at our serious roundtable. Tim, aren't you thrilled that you've joined our very serious, thought-provoking roundtable?
I'm indeed.
Just warning you, it's always like this.
I mean, he was on the WASD show. He should know.
Yes, that's true.
Except we have more samples this time around.
And I had less alcohol.
I'm doubting that one massively.
Press X to doubt. Also, chat predicted that I will have more than 2 glasses. I'm currently on my next half glass, so this is glass 2.
Okay, well, considering he's not got much time, we have differed a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, that's all right. Okay.
Short on time.
All right.
Max, yes, give us your point of view.
Okay, so I am a massive X-Boy fanboy, as you know.
X-Boy fanboy?
X-Boy fanboy. Slash box.
Well, there you go. I think we found an episode title.
Yeah, I'm actually a box, but I'm an X-Boy fanboy. Yeah, inside the box. Yeah, I'm an Xbox fanboy, and I have been for many years. And this week's news was nothing but quite deflating and disappointing, to be honest. So, as you said, there was some that kind of came into the spotlight because of the fact that there's quite a few. I mean, Arkane being basically closed down is huge. Obviously, it's not the full Arkane; it's one of the Arkane studios, but still. That's a big kick in the teeth because apart from one game, which I'm sure we'll talk about, everything else they produced has been really on point. The fact that Tango Works has gone after such a fantastic Shadow Drop game last year is massively disappointing. And funny enough, the company that's did the Mighty Doom mobile game, which I've loved since last March. It's on my phone. I play it quite a lot. And they put out a statement saying, we are basically going to shut the game down in August. And from now on, you can buy anything in the store for free. But the game will continue till August, but it's just going to disappear. So no one can play it after that. It's a shame because it literally celebrated its first anniversary a month ago. And it's a good little mobile game, to be fair. Especially from a different perspective of the Doom. It seems that some of the other franchises are safe. Obviously, we know ID. There's rumours that this summer Xbox thing, they're going to announce the next Doom game. That's why ID are safe, because Doom and Doom Eternal did well. But this next game's allegedly a prequel to those 2016 and Doom Eternal. Obviously, Machine Games, we know is safe because they're working on Indiana Jones, which was due to land at Christmas. But it's the fact that if you take these games or take these studios, if you move the one that's done the mobile game to one side for a moment, you look at Arkane and you go, okay, so they've worked on the Dishonored games, which are fabulous. This one particular studio, because I say it's not the whole of Arkane that's been ripped apart. It's only like one section. But they worked on The Prey? Was that 2016 as well? I think that came out.
Yes.
Which I have mixed feelings about that game, but I do like it. but it was never the game that I hoped it to be. And then obviously you had Redfall last year, which was probably one of in the top 10 worst games of the year, and a huge disappointment to a lot of people. And the fact that they stated last Christmas that there was going to be an update and that the first DLC was due to drop in June, which you're never going to see, is massively disappointing, because, again, that could have been a story where a game starts off absolute garbage and could have got redeemed. Fallout 76, anyone? But Bethesda seems to be okay. But then you look at Tango and the fact that you had 2 fantastic Evil Within games, and they dropped Hi-Fi Rush. And what annoyed me is that Hi-Fi Rush was not technically a commercial success, but won numerous awards.
Right.
And the fact that Microsoft decided, in its infinite wisdom, that this was one of the 4 leading games that Microsoft were going to put out to other consoles, and it only landed on PlayStation about 6 weeks ago, and now they've gone, it's underperformed. And I'm like, right, so you gave it 6 weeks to make that decision. I think there was telltale signs from the start, because people from Tango had left, like the studio head and stuff left. Also the same with Arkane, there was quite a few people that had left from that, so obviously there were signs coming that wasn't good. But I think the biggest question to ask here is, they've kind of put this, Microsoft to put up a statement, because they said, no, it's not about Xbox, it's about Microsoft. So there's a few things that worry me here, because I think it was somewhere in the region of something like a 21 billion profit or something they've made. Yes. Is that right?
Well, I was going to get to that, actually, because obviously Sarah Bond was on Bloomberg Live when she stated about it underperforming, and right above her head was actually the year-on-year profit on the screen that was above it, which completely bad optics-wise was totally ridiculous.
The thing is, they've probably had one of the best years, even though Microsoft itself hasn't really produced any decent content, right? In terms of, again, PS5 pretty much ruled last year. This year's a bit of a funny one because there's no sort of major exclusives for Sony, but you still get the feeling that when you look at the catalogue of what's being announced for Xbox, unless they pull something out of the park this summer, well, next month with the announcements, and then basically say, hey, this is what you're going to get slaps in the face with from September till Christmas. My concern is, if you're any of those other studios that you're working for Microsoft, right, wouldn't you be thinking, we're in the crap here? Because in 7 days, Hellblade 2, more than 7 days, Hellblade 2 comes out, which they've stated is not a very big game, and is more of an experience than a game. And Microsoft put a thing out about their advertising and marketing plan for this game, which apparently was supposed to start 7 days ago. Has anybody actually seen any marketing or advertising for Hellblade 2 at all?
Nope.
Right, so they're literally going to drop it on Game Pass, right? It will probably get tons of amazing reviews and people say it's amazing. I'm going to put my hands up here. Didn't like the first Hellblade game. Didn't care for it. I will see how I get on with this second one. But it says to me that it could get critical acclaim. It could possibly win Game of the Year. But I'd be sitting there going, we could be dropped any minute now, because this isn't, it's all about the selling. It's nothing about the acclaim or anything.
Yeah, and bearing in mind as well that their studio head left during active development. The game was revealed as well when the Series X was revealed at the Game Awards, which was in 2019, and it's taken a long old time to get to market. Microsoft has spent a pretty penny on obviously developing the game.
And if you look at the model of what Xbox are doing now, this probably won't sell well, because it is on Game Pass, right? Right. And you can't get it on any other platforms. It's PC or that. So maybe if you're going to get it on Steam, you would possibly pay for it. But that's the same model that what Starfield did. And Starfield massively undersold what they were hoping. It did get a lot of copies sold on Steam. It did do well, but review-wise, it was average. And we talked about that many a time. Thank you, Nana, by the way. Appreciate that.
Nana says Max is right on the money.
Yeah, my concern is if I was anybody other than the studios now, I'd be panicking, because whereas Phil Spencer and everyone else has said, look, we messed up a few years ago, and then they repeated the same thing when Redfall came out and said, oh, we messed up because we intervened too much. It's like they keep going on about that they want to give this creativity and they want to give the studios to basically do what they want to do, but they're clearly not, because they're sacking and closing down the studios. So how can they be creative when they ain't got jobs?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Or don't exist.
Yeah. I've seen the analogy going around on the internet at the moment is that Microsoft are now the new EA, where they buy studios and then shut them down eventually. Like, they've done it with Lionhead, they've done it with quite a few other studios now as well. You know, you have to remember a couple of years ago when they put out that Xbox documentary where they said, oh, we bought Lionhead, you know, we closed them down, we should be learning off of them and letting them do their creative thing rather than intervening too much, like you said. But now they're doing it all over again. It's a pattern of, like, mismanagement that's clearly happening somewhere.
Third time they've done this.
Yeah.
Over the last few years. The only thing I'd say is, I know EA is classed as one of the most hated gaming companies, but when EA did shut those companies down, they did something that Microsoft has not done, and that was in the way that they dealt with the employees and sorted the employees out. Now, obviously, Microsoft put a statement out saying, oh, we're going to try and find work for people here and there and there. But EA did a whole thing where they managed to cover a lot of those people and move them around, which is quite commendable considering it's EA, right? I'm not a biggest fan of EA, but they still makes them look better than what Microsoft are doing right now.
Yeah, and also EA have now started the EA Originals series, which is clearly supporting indie games or independent developers.
And the ones they brought out under that banner have been absolutely on point every time.
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd say something nice about EA, but there you go. I said two things in one show.
Wow.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's a rarity, but, you know, we give credit where credit is due when it's deserved.
Yeah.
So also Nana brought up a good point in the chat, and I was going to get to that, saying about Matt Booty the day after said that they need smaller games whilst also cancelling Tango Gameworks, who made Hi-Fi Rush. But there is a bit of a misnomer about that one, because actually I've been doing some research on this, and Hi-Fi Rush is not exactly a small game. Development started of it in 2018, and they only shadow dropped it in 2023. So it took 5 years and clearly a little bit of budget to actually do so. I see what they mean by smaller title, but to call it a small title is not exactly correct, let's say.
I think the other thing that people are not really picking up on this, and I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned, is all these other little game studios were all under the Bethesda banner originally.
Yeah, I mentioned that as we went in. It's all four of these studios are Bethesda owned rather than actually Microsoft.
Yeah, so when you look at the whole acquisition that they did of Bethesda, it's kind of like, okay, so there's that. But you kind of go, why? It makes no sense. They wanted this, and, you know, they made some great games for Bethesda in the past, but it's just, why didn't Bethesda do something? I know Bethesda are owned by Microsoft, but Todd Howard's still part of it. So why didn't he get involved with it and go, oh, hang on?
Yeah, but it's almost like they bought the IPs and the publishing rights off of them rather than actually wanting the studios themselves.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, was that they were buying the rights. And then I think this plan was long in development. I don't think this is a new thing that happened this year, because as we've said, we've got the numbers. Microsoft turned a profit. Xbox didn't turn a profit. The Xbox division, it didn't turn a profit, but it also didn't lose money.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing, is that they turned a profit, didn't they? Yes. Only when they acquired Activision Blizzard.
Yes.
Because Activision Blizzard were 90% of the actual profits.
Yeah, which is nuts.
Wow. I just want to get Tim's point of view, because we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah, sorry, that was just my information dump for 15 minutes. There you go.
But Tim, do you have any thoughts on Mags's statement?
Yes, no, absolutely. I think all the things you say there, like I said, are bang on. And I think the first takeaway when something like this happens is that there's lots of people that are out of jobs. at the end of this, and it's like, well, why are they doing that? And I think Microsoft and specifically Xbox are going to be losing a lot of goodwill from fan base just from that decision. Because they've shut down some studios that people are fans of. There's games that are not going to come out that people have been looking forward to. I think just the general decision around it is like, why have you done that and taken these things away? I think the long-term impact of it is what their main reasonings for doing it is going to be. They want to focus more on larger games, and they don't want to be spread. They're saying they're spread too thin, or that was the justification they gave. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But that's what they're saying. So, is that going to pay off long term? And are we going to actually get to see some really good games come out the back of it, and see less games but of more quality? And is it going to be good enough for people to kind of have a bit more goodwill back towards Microsoft? Because at the moment, I think everyone's feeling a little bit salty towards Microsoft now after those decisions. So it might backfire on them a bit. And again, considering the amount of profit Microsoft have made, you talk about those big numbers, was it a financial reason they needed to do that? Or was that overly necessary? And they've just bought those huge, like, Activision and Blizzard, like, they've clearly got a lot on. Have they just taken on too much and it's fallen back? And the thing as well with Game Pass is I think it's obviously that's one of my favourite things about Xbox. So I have Game Pass, but I don't buy games then. Because I'm like, well, I've got new games coming out on Game Pass. I've got a huge amount of really good quality games I can play. Do I then want to go and buy a physical copy of something which isn't on Game Pass? And in the past, I have bought games that a month later have come on Game Pass. I'd be like, oh, I shouldn't have bought that because it's on Game Pass now. So it actually deters me from buying games. Yeah. And like a lot of people playing Starfield, are they playing it on Game Pass rather than actually going and buying it?
Yeah. After playing Starfield for all of 5 minutes, no, I gave it 15 minutes. I did. Now, I'm a Bethesda fangirl. That is a very well-known fact on this show. I gave Starfield 15 minutes, and then I tried again 3 weeks later, and I gave it another 15 minutes. I hated it, and there's no way I would ever buy it ever.
Wow. I at least gave it 5 hours.
Ugh, I couldn't have.
But they said as well that they actually look. I don't know if this is official or just rumours, but are Microsoft looking to not make any more consoles?
That was the rumour that was quashed.
Yeah, it was the one that was going into that discussion, I think, in like March or April, wasn't it? Or something like that.
Max talked about that on his show, actually.
We talked about it too.
Yeah, you guys talked about it as well.
I only remember Max's show. I don't remember ours. I drink too much.
This shows how little she cares about her own show.
Because I don't have the Xbox Series X, like the most recent one. I've got a Series S, like the remodel they did of the One S. I don't know. Their naming conventions are really weird.
They're dumb.
I have the white one. That's all I know.
I've got a little white one without a disc drive, and I've got a black one with a disc drive upstairs. So I've got one upstairs, one downstairs. But I'm not motivated to get the next one because I've got my PS5. So if I want to play like more recent stuff, I've got the PS5 to play on. And the amount of games on Game Pass that I can access through the Series S, do I need the Series X? And I'm just not motivated to drop any money on it because I just don't need it. And I think that kind of damages them as well. They've not got any exclusive big releases that you go, all right, I'm going to have to get an Xbox Series X to play this. And it's going to make me make the jump. And it's been out a while, and I would have thought that by now I would have been like, okay, now's the time I'm going to jump on. But nothing has made me go, oh, I'm missing out here. I've got my FOMO. I'm going to go out and get an Xbox Series X. It's just not happened. So
I have to agree. Max, I was going to ask you. Only about 15 minutes. What are your thoughts and feels about like we mentioned Game Pass? Or you have the black Xbox. I don't know.
I do. Yeah, I have a Series X. I was quite fortunate to get a Series X 2 months after it come out. So I had it like December of 2020.
They didn't have them on this island.
Yeah, I didn't get a PS5 until following September. So I was about a year behind with PS5. Bearing in mind I hadn't had a PlayStation since PS2, and I only really got it because of what I do. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I probably would have never got a PlayStation. But I probably wouldn't get another Xbox until we get the 6th generation or whatever. Because, again, I had an Xbox One pretty much when it came out, but I didn't bother getting an Xbox One S or whatever it was, like the slimmed down version. Because there's no real point. Because when you look at it, It does offer maybe a slightly bigger hard drive, slight spec, but are you really going to notice it when you're playing? The answer is no. Jumping from an Xbox One to a Series X or a PS4 to a PS5, you do notice a difference. But when you get these half-gen refreshes, unless you haven't already got that console, that's the only reason why people do that. I think the biggest thing here, you speak to people, and when you mention Xbox, as everyone said here, Game Pass is the thing that comes out. Because Game Pass is fantastic. I can't knock it. The amount of games that it saved me from ever buying and then playing, or games that I've discovered that I would have never heard of, my hat's off to it. But I do know that it can hurt smaller publishers, developers when they do that, because they only get a small percentage of, the cuts of what Game Pass is. So, but it can get you in spotlight, and therefore it's pros and cons with that. The problem you got is, if you mention PlayStation, everyone says PS5, right? They don't mention PS Plus, which is a good service, but nowhere near as good as Xbox Game Pass as far as I'm concerned. But ironically, when you've got both like I have, you kind of go, well, there's these games on PS Plus, and 6 months later they leave, and then they turn up on Game Pass. And you got these games that are first on Game Pass, and then 6 months later they leave, and then they turn up on PS Plus. So it actually doesn't matter if you've got both, because you're going to end up playing them anyway. It's a much of a muchness. But whenever you mention Sony, PlayStation, people say PS5, because that's the console they want. No one is saying they want an Xbox Series X anywhere. Like, you go to America, it's all PlayStation. Obviously, in Japan, Xbox does not sell well.
No.
More people, right? The only reason people are not buying Switches anymore is because nearly everyone's got a Switch, right? And it's coming to the end of its life cycle. Xbox will be coming up in back end of November for its 4-year anniversary. And it's at the point where Switch is now, and Switch is the older console. That's not a good sign for Xbox.
Nope.
Good point, actually. Okay, so we'll run through this quickly. Mags has about 10 minutes. But this is to Mags and Tim.
Yeah, let Tim go first. I've said enough.
What do you see from this point of view, which we'll go into a little bit more later, but what do you think the future is going to be? What future path is Microsoft/Xbox going to take? Also, I'm throwing this in because of my personal choice. Do you think Phil Spencer's going to hang around? I'd like to know your thoughts on that. So what do you think, Tim?
Oh, okay. Again, looking at all the things we've been talking about and Game Pass, things like, I think they want to do something different, push things. And actually, I think perhaps that's some of the motivation behind what's been going on. So I think we'll probably see some big releases that are going to make a big splash. So we'll probably get something with a lot of marketing on one big game, and they're going to try and create buzz around these big games, and then that might even be something to push the console more on people. So I think actually the wise thing for them to do is to bring out some big heavy hitters and not put them on Game Pass. They've been pushing Game Pass, lots of people. They need to bring out some big games that aren't on Game Pass. And I think that's the bit they're not doing. They're rewarding people for getting Game Pass. That's the thing they're pushing. I'm sure they'll make a lot of profit on that. But they want to kind of re-enter and be seen more as a console choice. I think they need a big IP, big heavy hitting game come out that's not on any other console. They need some exclusive titles that aren't on Game Pass that people are then actually going to go out and buy. That's what I think they'll be looking at doing at some point.
This. What do you think? Do you think Halo Infinite came out on Game Pass? Do you think that was a detriment? Do you think that was a negative, or do you think it was a positive?
It's difficult. I'm a bit weird with this sort of thing because I love the Halo games. I didn't really play Infinite, and it was on Game Pass. Yeah, I think I kind of get IP fatigue after a while. Like, I played all of the Assassin's Creed games up until I think it was like Odyssey or Origins, and then I just dropped off. And it's not because they were bad games. It's like I've played like 5-6 Assassin's Creed games. I want to play something else. And I absolutely loved Halo Reach, was probably my favourite Halo game. And then they had, I think it was Halo 4 or one of the other ones just wasn't quite as good. And I was like, I'm not like buzzing to get my hands on another Halo game. And it's difficult, isn't it? Because when you then release something which is an original game, there's a new IP, you're taking a bit of a risk. You're not have people say, oh, there's a new Halo game, there's a new Assassin's Creed game. You've already got a fan base that exists that's waiting for the next one. And it's like, I like seeing a new thing come out. But then a lot of people be like, I'm going to wait to get it until I've seen what the reviews are like and things like that. So there's a bit of a balancing act to go there. But yeah, I think I don't think putting that on Game Pass was necessarily a bad one. If it was like a bigger hit in the franchise, I think that's hit franchise fatigue a little bit now. Right. Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know because I don't really work in marketing and sales and things like that, and I probably am talking nonsense. But yeah, I feel like there's going to be some sort of shift where they go right. Let's put something not on Game Pass, shift some consoles, and see what the reaction is.
Well, then, Mags, is Gears of War 6 going to be the thing?
I don't know. It's a funny thing. There's a couple of things here. I'm not, as you know, I'm not a big fan of the Halo series.
Yes, we know.
Okay. But what I am going to say in Game Pass's defense is, yes, Halo Infinite was a year delayed.
It was.
But I actually played Halo Infinite because it was on Game Pass. Now, I know a lot of people didn't like it, are big Halo fans, but I really enjoyed that game. So I'm kind of like, if that had not been on Game Pass, I probably still wouldn't have touched it now because of my whole stigma of that I don't like Halo games. So Game Pass has got that thing of, it does allow you to get access to games. I'm not going to totally agree with Tim on what he said about Xbox needing to get a big game out that needs to not be on Game Pass. I think because the saving grace with Xbox is when they finally do get a big exclusive, which is very rare and between the last few years, let's be honest, the pulling point is getting people onto Game Pass to get it. However, I think this is where the other bit where I do agree with Tim is we should start seeing more games that they might go, this is exclusive to Game Pass, but it's not exclusive to Xbox. So you can buy it on PS5, you can buy it on Switch, because obviously they had 4 games out that they pushed out. Unfortunately, Hi-Fi Rush being one. It looks how they deserve that. But ironically, the best-selling PlayStation game of April was Sea of Thieves, which came out on the last day of April, which is insane. So it's a 6-year-old game, which they've now put on PlayStation, and it's PlayStation's biggest selling game in one day out of that whole month, which shows you that there is that market for that. So they could put it free on Game Pass for the people who've got Xbox, but still have it on Switch, PC, blah, blah, blah. Because if you look at how PlayStation are doing it, PlayStation are putting more and more of their titles, not necessarily on day one, but you're getting Ghost of Tsushima, very soon. And I've had other games now. Some have done well on PCs. Obviously, some. The Last of Us port was dreadful. But majority have been very good. So if PlayStation can do it and put it on another platform, then Microsoft, I think, should do that. I think they... My biggest issue is I used to get excited for Game Pass. Hello, Will. Used to get very excited for Game Pass showcases. Yeah, and I haven't been excited the last 3 years. Everything they've put out has been so mediocre. And yes, we're getting an Indiana Jones game. I don't think that looks that good. Okay.
Agreed.
So yes, I'm going to play it. Great, it's on Game Pass because I will try it and I will play it and I'll probably stream it. But they really need to pull something out of the bag this next month. Next month, because just nothing there. And this year's a bit of a grim year generally for games because there's nothing to really get excited about so far. Hopefully that will change, but I think this year's been a bit of a year so far. And in terms of Phil Spencer going, he ain't going. He's loving what he's doing at the moment, and at the moment, it's not him that's putting the foot wrong, really, in that respect. It's kind of them as a team that's putting the foot wrong, like with the president of Microsoft and that. I saw that video clip of her basically avoiding the question about Tango Gameworks, which just says everything, really. Yeah.
God, it was.
So, it was just like you should go work for the Conservatives in the UK. You come up with a big bullshit answer, or any politician in the UK actually you could work for with a bullshit answer like that. But I think Phil Spencer is. It's the thing that he took over from, and I can't remember the guy's name, when things started to go wrong with the Xbox One, and that he managed to see it through the thing, and then it's almost like Phil Spencer managed to turn it around.
Don Matrick was the guy's name.
Yes, yeah. And he was like, off you go, bye. That might happen to Phil Spencer further down the line, but I think there's a lot of goodwill still there from the Xbox community. Yes, this has got a massive dent in it, but it's not actually all aimed at him. So I can't see him going anytime soon. Yeah. So there you go.
Well, that is actually about half an hour, Max.
Wait, okay. I'm going to do one then.
Yes, you're going to drop out.
And
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. That was my 2 cents. By Ken. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
For Max. Yes. No, we thank you very much for being here and giving us your time.
No worries. Good to see you all. Good to see you, Tim. I'll still be watching. I'll still be in chat, but I'll see you in a bit.
Cool.
See ya. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Oh, Tim, we didn't actually explore the Phil Spencer question with you. What do you think about Phil Spencer? Is he got a longevity to him? Because
that's the kind of thing I don't know. When it comes to that sort of thing, I'm ill-informed of these sorts of things. I just look at the games that come out. So yeah, if Alex thinks he's going to stick around, I'll probably just go with that, because I don't really have any informed opinions to make about it all. So yeah, I'm just gonna hear what he said.
we kind of have a little bit of a full disclosure, I am an Xbox fangirl. Pete is an unapologetic Nintendo fanboy.
Excuse me, no, I'm willing to disagree with any company. Thank you very much.
Yes, exactly. No, you are, but you are.
I'm primarily a Nintendo gamer, let's say.
Yeah. So for me, Phil Spencer is very, very important. We call him Father Phil. But and I have to say, this last year, although I still think he's, wonderful, and I have defended him probably a little bit too much the last year, it has felt a little bit like, he's going the way of, like, this typical spokesperson, the things that he's saying. And in fact, what he said, and what we can talk about now, is yes, Uncle Phil, exactly. He said, now I want to bring my perspective into this. I am a business owner. I am a several business owner, several times over, which is probably why I identify so much with Father Phil. One thing that he said that is not wrong is when divisions, we'll say, these developers, these publishing houses or whatever, when they fail to make a profit, not when they lose money. I think that's very important that we highlight that. But when they fail to make a profit, it's time to, quote, trim the fat. As a business owner, yes, that's exactly what I do. I cut ship. I sell assets. As soon as I start losing money, boom. I mean, I'm on my 4th business, and I've never lost any money since. Because the minute that profit goes down, boom, I'm selling. So I see what he's saying. But I want to get Pete and Tim's point of view on this. From a kind of consumer point of view, how does that make you feel that he's going to cut bait, as they say, drop ship, cut bait, for a division that isn't losing money, but isn't making money? What do you think, Tim? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it was at the end of the day, it's they're making. I don't think any decisions like that get taken lightly. Like, they're not just going to cut things without they've planned into it. They've looked into it. They've got data that they're using to help them guide their decisions. And ultimately, if they are, someone as big as Microsoft, you think they've probably got good systems in place where they look at their operation and look at what needs to change, what's adding value. Do they need to remove anything that's not adding value? And then sort of make sure that they're going in the right direction. And I think ultimately for consumers, it is going to end up for the better long term, because they're going to be investing in the things they think are going to be big and successful. And yeah, I just think there's never a nice feeling around it. when any business goes like, oh, we want to go in this direction, so we're going, like, say, cut the fat and get rid of some stuff. That never kind of goes down well. But I think that isn't done without, a lot of consideration and research and data that goes into making a decision like that. So, and there's something going on at the moment. I feel like there's going to be a big shake-up in how things are done, because loads of big companies with gaming is going like, right, we're going all digital, or we've got subscription based rather than buying physical media and buying discs. It's digital downloads. And that Ubisoft rep said gamers need to get used to not owning their games and things like this. And all these things are coming out. It's like, we're going to tell you how you're going to enjoy gaming. Like, you're not going to decide as the consumer. We're going to tell you how you're going to enjoy our content. And there's lots of people doing different things. In the meantime, you've got Nintendo just going like, hey, we're just going to check out the side-scrolling Mario game. It's good. So yeah, there's lots of different things going on. But yeah, I think ultimately it'll probably go in the right direction eventually, but it feels like a bit of a blow to a lot of people, especially just hearing the numbers of job losses. I think is always quite hard to hear, isn't it? 'Cause, there's a lot of people that are out of work, and I'm sure a lot of them will land on their feet and things will happen. But yeah, it feels like a real shift in what's going on.
I'm going to say this, and then Pete, I want to hear from you. I absolutely think that we're in some kind of transition period, kind of reflecting what Tim said. Things are definitely changing. I can say again, business decisions are not made overnight. They are made almost years in advance. Because you do have that constant data coming in, and then you can check it and you can see it, and you can see the trends, and you can see what technology is. I mean, Microsoft, don't forget, Microsoft isn't just Xbox. Microsoft is a massive company. They own tons of technology that they do sometimes incorporate into Xbox, but not always. So they're first and foremost, they are a software company. Well, it's a technology company. So I think there's a lot more going on than that we, the consumer, knows. And I think that we are in a transition period. What that transition period is, I don't know. But there's definitely, kind of echoing what Tim says, there's something brewing underneath, something, happening. Pete, what are your thoughts on that? And also, I want to know what your thoughts on Phil Spencer.
My thoughts on what? Sorry.
On Microsoft, do you feel the same, kind of like we're in a transition area? Do you think that the future is bleak? Do you think it's positive? And I want to know what you think about Phil Spencer. Is he going to hang around or not?
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't think the gaming industry, well, just Microsoft is in a transition period. I think everyone is. You look at the recent controversy that Sony have had with Helldivers, and now with Ghost of Tsushima coming to PC, that are requiring PSN subscriptions or PSN accounts on Steam. There is a shift in the AAA gaming market, and first-party developers are obviously having a big effect on them generally as well. So this isn't just a Microsoft problem. This appears to be everyone but Nintendo for some reason. But then, let's be honest, even Retro are having a problem with the fact that they've now rebooted development on Metro Prime 4, and that game still hadn't seen the light of day despite being revealed when the Switch got revealed as well. So right. AAA development is just I think it's going to bottom out eventually, because the ballooning budgets, like we were saying last week, there are massive ballooning budgets with them. It's an unsustainable business market at the moment.
Exactly.
Same with Hollywood, where you're spending $200 to $300, maybe $400 million on development of a game, and you're barely breaking even. Say Spider-Man 2, which was a fairly successful game for Sony, sold 10 odd million copies. It's still not going to make anywhere close to its development budget, and then you have to take into account marketing on top of all that as well, and then the cut through price of obviously having to sell to retailers and all that. They have to make their budget back and more, and that doesn't seem to be happening. So Microsoft are obviously seeing that as well, with the fact that they want the subscription based service, but subscriptions have gone down year on year for the last couple of years as well. So it's not that, and this is what Sarah Bond was saying, whilst I don't agree with what her sentiment was of word salad, she's not wrong, because of the fact that subscriptions have has stagnated. So they're trying to appeal to a new market. They're trying to appeal and be more accessible. But actually, I think fundamentally, and this isn't just a Microsoft problem, they're fundamentally forgetting what gamers actually want, and they want good experiences. They've gone chasing after big budget games, big graphics, big stories and all that. But actually, you look at a game like Hi-Fi Rush, which, yes, probably had a bigger budget than most people seem to think, but the fundamental point of it was it had a decent story and it played well. And that's what more people are going to resonate towards.
Here's my thing, and I'm going to be honest. I've drank a lot of wine, so I don't know if Tim said this or Max. I think it was Tim. But I think that we are in a, again, hearkening back to the transition as we were talking about, where they're about to start focusing on quality, because we need more quality games, is how I feel. I feel that we've had this kind of almost cookie cutter factory, just putting out these games, blah 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 blah.
Well, yeah, I've said it with Sony, didn't I? Where it's everything is an over-the-shoulder third-person action game for the last few years.
It's like I was talking about IP fatigue.
Yes,
and if they brought out a Halo game once every 4 years, you'd be buzzing to get hold of that. If they brought out an Assassin's Creed game only once every 5 years or something, if it's out every year or every other year, it's it's another game, and you want to have multiple experiences and try different things. You're going to fall in and out of franchises. If they spread them out, we got less. Less is more. Do you know what I mean? In that sense, I think if we had less big drops come in, and then people have more time to play them. Because one of the reasons I don't spend money on these big AAA games when they come out is because I'm paying for subscription services, and I've got a huge backlog of games I've not actually touched, which are all going to be good, enjoyable games. It's so different now. Back, when I first got into gaming, if I had my Mega Drive, I would get a game for Christmas and a game for my birthday. If I was lucky, I might get one other game that year if I have a gift from somebody or have enough money to put on a game. Now, that 3 games a year was all I ever would get. That doesn't seem like anything at all now. So I think we also have a little bit of sort of gaming overload, but we've got it really good, actually. We have got access to a lot of good games, a lot of good experiences. So
there's a AAA game coming out at least once every month, aren't there? So we're not.
You just can't keep up with that.
We do eat well, let's say, but it's obviously it's a detriment to the consumer's wallet. Their budgets are limited. The budgets for creating these games may be somewhat unlimited, but our budgets as general consumers are not unlimited.
Yeah. Like I said, the cost of making games is going up, and also my Alexa wants to talk to me. I think the budget of the games is going up, and people are also talking about this, the Game Pass price going up as well. And it's will that actually cause me to say, you know what, I will pay for one subscription over another, and will people go, I can't afford to buy both PlayStation Premium and Xbox Game Pass. I'm just going to drop the Game Pass and stick to PlayStation for now, or I'm going to start just playing my backlog on Steam rather than doing Game Pass and things like. Because at some point you do have to look at your budget, but price of Netflix has gone up, or Amazon, and then this and then that. I think, okay, I've got to trim it down a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't afford to have all these different options.
It's why I stopped paying for PlayStation Premium, because I was in the process of moving. And the price kept going up. It was ridiculous, and they didn't feel like what they were offering was actually good value for money, whereas Game Pass was still producing, and that's exactly the reason why I've decided to buy things like Helldivers on PC instead, because I haven't got to pay for that barrier of entry of playing online.
Yeah, I've actually found myself purchasing, this is crazy, again, Xbox fangirl, I found myself purchasing more Steam games in the last 6 months than I've purchased any other game on any other platform. Which is crazy when you think about it. So I want to know from both of you, of course, what do you think specifically Xbox can do to get the goodwill back? Do you think they need a new console generation, and that's what we're doing, is we're just waiting for that console generation, or do they need a AAA game, or what do you think? Tim, you go ahead.
So I'll go back to what I was saying before. I think they need to bring out some big, heavy-hitting like AAA title, and they need to like really push it and get a lot of marketing out there and build some hype. I feel like recently there's not been a lot of games that build up enough hype before they come out, and I just don't get excited about it. They need to build up some hype and get people excited and talking about it, and then bring something out. Whether it goes to Game Pass or not, I don't know. Like, as a Game Pass subscriber, if a big game is being hyped up and it's on Game Pass, I'm like, brilliant, because I can just play that. So it's good for a consumer to just get it straight to Game Pass. But I feel like there needs to be some big franchise that's not been around for a while they're going to bring back, or a new franchise that's going to get people excited. But there needs to be some sort of big announcement that's going to get people excited again.
Say this. I realize this is a PlayStation game, but Stellar Blade came out, and actually, yes, I watched Max play it. I never saw a lot of hype for this game. So kind of reflecting what Tim was saying.
Yeah.
No, it's a really good game. I'm not saying it's a great game and it's a Game of the Year edition or anything like, or Game of the Year.
I think some would argue otherwise.
I mean, some would, maybe, but it's a solid game. The gameplay was nice. The story was nice. The graphics were stunning. But I never saw any marketing for it, except for...
And also, it's not a known... There's not like a known IP, is it? It's a new
IP
game. It's not like people going like, oh yeah, I've liked the other Stellar Blade series, I'll jump on this one. It's new, which is what a lot of people say they want. That's what I want to see as well. I like seeing like new IPs come in rather than just churning out the same games all the time. And you think, but nobody's familiar with that IP, so why aren't they massively broadcasting it and making people aware of it?
Because as far as I know, and please chat and obviously guest and Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, but in April, I think that was the major AAA game that was released. I don't really remember anything else.
It was one of the more major titles of that.
And
month.
Like Mag says, it got more news about the quote controversial outfit thing more than the actual advertising or marketing. Which, yes, we realize that controversial stances or whatever, that is kind of a PR generator type thing. But outside of that, I never really heard anything. Okay, Max says it was the only AAA game that month, which is what I thought. If that's Sony. Sony and Microsoft both can basically print money. So if that's Sony's AAA game for, let's say, April, and there was no marketing, what chance does Microsoft have? Like they need to, like, what has happened to marketing? Like why are we not getting, like, I remember back in the day as reviewers and stuff, we wouldn't just get codes to review the game. We would get entire press packages and stuff like that, and we're not getting that now. It's literally just a code for the game. Do you think that maybe, and I'm gonna ask this to Tim and then Pete, you follow up. Do you think maybe a lot of this may be actually a marketing kind of insufficiency, we'll say?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's weird, isn't it? Because the way we consume media and stuff has completely changed over the years. So I think a lot of marketing and advertising you get now is more like watching YouTube and getting YouTube ads for things like that, rather than like TV. I don't really watch TV now. I just watch streaming services. So I'm not going to see a TV advert. And yeah, it's unless it's like during like a big event sort of thing on TV, like in what is it? There's always the talk about the adverts getting in like the Super Bowl halftime thing in America. It's like that's an expensive place to stick an advert because you're gonna have so many people watching it. And yeah, I don't see games hyped up and advertised like we used to. It's definitely different. I think I more now will pick up games from recommendations of talking to people, because I talk to a lot of people that play games, and I'll pick up recommendations and then I'll go and play it. But actually as well, it is Twitch, because like I'll see someone playing a game and be like, actually I quite like that. I think I will drop some money on and go and get it. And I might not have done that if I hadn't seen someone play it. So you have that advertising after the fact. So the games come out and then you're going to see people playing it, and then get a reaction and reviews, and then go out and get it. Whereas before, it'd be like, I'm pre-ordering that because I know I'm going to love this game.
Yeah, I was watching a streamer the other day, and yes, I do watch other streamers besides Max, not many. But I was watching Ember, and she was playing a game from Steam, and it was basically Subnautica, but on a planet. We'll say that. If I had not seen her play that, I would have had, first of all, did not know it existed. Second of all, would have had no interest. None at all. So I'm kind of agreeing here with Tim with this organic kind of experience. I think is more of a success in getting people to buy games than maybe marketing is. Maybe that's the direction they're going in. Pete, what are your feelings about marketing games, especially AAAs?
I think in this days, like, whilst they can spend a lot of money on marketing, they just don't tend to do so as much. And I don't really get the reason why. Like, you've got it's almost like it's somewhat a calculated risk nowadays to actually market a game that you don't think is going to sell, whereas you know full well that your CODs, your Halos and all that are going to get marketing budgets put behind them because they are big franchises and they're big names. You know, right. your smaller titles are not going to get the sort of hype towards it, and the only way that you're going to get any word out about it is through word of mouth, and word of mouth is obviously the most powerful form of advertising you've got out there. But it's almost like these companies are just afraid to put a marketing budget behind a game that whether or not it's because they don't feel confident in that game, or whether or not they're just unsure whether the general market is going to go towards something like Stellar Blade or a game like that. It's very strange. And like I said, they just don't seem to want to take a risk anymore. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we've got in the games industry at the moment is it's all very sterile, and there's not anyone willing to take a risk these days.
Yes, and I want to reflect chat because... And
sorry, also, I want to go back to the fact that what do I think about... Because this was asked ages ago and I never got to answer. Yeah, Phil Spencer needs to go. This guy has run the ship for many, many years now, and Xbox has... he has overseen the Xbox One generation that was a particular failure. He didn't start it out, but he didn't exactly correct course. They brought Game Pass out, fine. That's the only thing that he's really done that's been any sort of anything worth his weight in salt. But even then, subscriptions have gone down because they've inundated the market with advertising, and people that were going to get in have gotten in, and that's it. But since then, they've had the Xbox One X, which wasn't exactly a success. They've had a very tepid reception to the Xbox Series X and S, and it's not really gone anywhere. In that time, they have bought studios, and they've kept doing what they've been doing since Microsoft and Xbox began, and yet they're still not learning their lessons. Max brought this up perfectly. They bought Rare. What have they done with them since? They finally let them actually make proper games since they bought them from Nintendo, and look how that's worked out. They, all these studios that they've bought, and yet most of them have become creatively bankrupt as a result under Microsoft's tutelage. And the fact of the matter is that Microsoft aren't really going to care about any of this when they've just went and spent $69 billion on Activision Blizzard, where they know that they have got a glorified money printer there with Call of Duty. They're not going to give a crap.
Just coming back to the talks about shutting down some of these studios as well. I think one of the other reasons why it stings a bit and people are really annoyed by this is because why did they buy them in the first place then? Because some of them, how long ago did they actually buy those studios?
Yeah.
Have they actually, what was the point of buying them then? You could have just left them alone.
Yeah, Ninja Theory being that one. They inherited some of the budget for Hellblade. Well, they bought them after Hellblade came out, and they've pretty much filtered them into making Hellblade 2. They've given them all this money. That game is not going to sell. It is a niche market, for a niche market, that one. It's not going to make the numbers, and I do worry that Ninja Theory are next on the chopping block.
Well, I want to reflect that Emperor Carrot did actually say the same exact thing that Tim has just mentioned. Then why buy the studio in the first place? And some other, I'll run through chat very quickly because they are 100% in line with what we're talking about. Nana says there was also Sandland and a few other things that launched. Max says a few YouTube adverts went out after the game launched.
That was to do with Cellarblade.
Which again, I realize is a Sony title, but it's reflective of what we're talking about. A-Pop Brent says, if I'm being honest, I have gotten more enjoyment out of the indie and third-party games on Game Pass than I have the first-party games since Hi-Fi Rush. I'm going to second that. I've been playing more indie games this year than I have in a very long time, actually.
I mean, look at games like Balatro that seem to have absolutely taken off.
Yeah.
And they're made by, like, singular people or a couple of people in a small studio.
Well,
I quite like playing like shorter games, just because I don't get a huge amount of time to game. I much prefer actually playing a game and being able to finish it in a few sittings and then move on to something else. Whereas if I'm playing like a big AAA game, I don't actually have the time to dedicate to that game like I used to have. So I kind of steer away from these really huge open world games with a bunch of side quests. Like I used to be a real completionist and delve into every little thing I could find in the game and make sure I've got all the unlockables and collectibles and make sure I've tried every side quest. Now I'm like, I'm just going to stick to the main campaign. I'm going to play it on normal difficulty and I'm going to try and like get through as quick as I can because I've got other games I want to play.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that way when I'm playing an indie game. So like, I'm just going to play this game. It's probably not going to take me months and months to complete.
I didn't have 65 hours to put into Rebirth. I still did it, but actually I kind of regret my decision now.
Well, let's see. Jenny says things are changing so much. 100%. We are definitely in a transition. I think we're all in a kind of agreement there. Tanker got a French advert. That is quite weird. Cincho says, no. Phil has to bring back Killer Instinct first. But yeah, that is on the books, though. Killer Instinct is on the books to come out. Cincho said 69.
Apparently. I don't think Killer Instinct makes a return anytime soon, and if they do, well, I want to harken back to something Cincho said earlier. Actually, they don't own Iron Galaxy, so actually they can't shutter that studio, so they only license them out. It was why am I forgetting the name of the company who actually did start Double Helix? They were then bought out by Amazon. Then Iron Galaxy were brought in because of their experience of fighting games, and they actually corrected course. Because I think everyone forgets that Killer Instinct Season 1 was an absolute mess as well. It came out in a good state, but it was still a mess in terms of the model at which it came out.
Well, Brent says, looking at my games played since the beginning of the year, I have enjoyed playing 20 indies and third-party games on Game Pass, but only 2 first-party games I have played more than one session of. Forza Motorsport, obviously, yes, and the week or so of Fallout 76. After watching the show, I still won't touch Fallout 76, but that's me, because I'm a Fallout hardcore traditionalists, but I do know that 76 did take an uptick after the show, which I'm always glad about because I want more people into Fallout so we can have more shows and more games. Cincho says, the only AAA game I play are fighting games. Other than that, the ratio is probably 100 to 1 when it comes to indies/AAA. And one might argue fighting games aren't even AAA besides Street Fighter, Tekken, and Mortal Kombat. I would agree with you there, Cincho.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'd put 69 hours into Rebirth. Wow. Pete, how far did you get? How many hours
65.
Right, okay. For those who don't know, Rebirth is a Sony title, just to keep everyone kind of...
Well, it's Square Enix, but it was on PlayStation.
Yeah, I would say it's an exclusive.
For the next few months, yeah.
Okay, so I know we kind of lightly touched on this, but we haven't really expanded, and I kind of want to do this. Tim, what do you think? Do you think that we've spoken repeatedly about being in a transition phase? Do you think we're as in the consumer, is what I mean, in a kind of limbo until the next generation. What are your thoughts on
that? I guess so. It does feel a bit strange at the moment. And I can go back to with everything that Sony are doing and Microsoft are doing. In the meantime, you still have Nintendo, where you could just go to the shops and buy a Nintendo Switch game on your little cartridge in your box and put it on your shelf. And they're always there. They're reliable, and it's like people say earlier about taking risks. I think actually Nintendo will take risks and do weird out there games, something original, because for every flop they get with a risk, they've got a Pokemon Go or a Mario Kart which they know is gonna get all their money back. So I think they've got a bit more freedom to go, we'll do this weird sort of style game. And it's funny because as consumers we say we want innovative games, we want original stuff, we want new IPs, but the games that sell the best are going to be FIFA and COD and Madden and things like that. They're the ones that actually, so if you're like in a game studio going, right, what should we bring out? Let's just bring out the same game again with a new year stuck at the end, and that's going to make more money than those risky games. But as gamers, we love to see those like different titles and risky games, but they're just on a population level just don't do as well. I think whatever happens, we're still going to have amazing games to play. I think we're sport for choice now. I always come back to the fact that I would play a handful of games before, and my interest in games has completely shifted, because before I was the opposite. I'd want those massive games that would take me hours and hours to complete. I want a game that was going to take me like 100 hours to beat, because that's the only game I'm going to play for months and months and months. I would have had a lot more time to play. Whereas now I'm like, I'm going to try this indie game. I'm going to try this indie game. Oh, try this AAA title. I'm going to try this. Like I said earlier, a cat chasing a little light around the floor. I don't get to finish games as much now either, because I'm like, do I want? Is it gonna, when a game starts feeling like a chore? Do I just stop?
Yes, yeah.
It's that time investment of like, I want to go, and it's very weird because the model of games. We've got options and good different things. I've never been a big fan of these like free games that have in-app purchase. Like I'm not a mobile gamer. I've got a couple of mobile games. Don't really like playing mobile games. I've never touched anything like Fortnite. It's just not for me. And like in the chat they're talking about like fighting games. I absolutely love fighting games. Fighting games were some of my favourite things back in like the PS1 era, and like I used to love fighting games. Now I don't like that you buy a fighting game at full price, and to get the other characters, you have to download them as DLC by paying more. It's like, no, I want to beat the game and earn it and be given this thing. I don't want to put more money on it. It's like, I want to unlock the hidden characters by completing the game enough times or defeating the bosses.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
It is ever changing. And some of the stuff I don't like, having to buy the other characters in fighting games or, freemium games on phones, things like that. But then there's other things that I've really enjoyed, like Game Pass, the real sort of renaissance of indie games that we've seen, and there's some really cool stuff that's come out. So whatever direction the gaming industry goes in, I think we're all going to get some really cool games to play regardless.
I am going to agree with that because, as we've said, and I've said this on this show, we've said it tonight, we're entering this new era where I think quality over quantity is the goal now, because studios are being pared down, indies are coming to the forefront, which is, it's their time to shine, thank goodness. And I think that we as consumers, as gamers, we're going to benefit because we're going to get higher quality games. We're going to get them for more affordable prices, because if they're indies, they're going to be more affordable. And I do hate that, of course, there are layoffs and the bigger companies are having to pare down and all those sort of things. That is terrible, and our hearts go out to anyone that is affected by that. But again, as a gamer, I think that we're about to come into our own. I think we're about to enter a new era where we're going to benefit. Pete, what are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that? Do you think, wait, AAAs are about to come back to the forefront? What do you think, Pete?
Well, I'm going to mirror my sentiments from last week, so I'll repeat it for anyone who actually wasn't here or didn't listen. I think we're expecting, or I'm very much expecting, an implosion of the AAA gaming market where the indie games are going to come out dominant. They're really starting to show with things like a convention like WASD that more people are so much more interested in playing an indie experience from a smaller team on a smaller budget that's a more concise and more streamlined experience that was more akin to how it was when we were kids, when you had a game that would take you a couple of hours, was hard, could be hard as nails, and you'd play it over and over again because you wanted that replayability from it, and you would just enjoy the experience. It was a one and done, possibly, and that was it. Not many people, like Tim said, man who has kids, one day might have kids myself, you don't have the time to go and put in a game like that, like times like 65 hours into Rebirth, or hundreds of hours into a live service game, or hundreds of hours into a Street Fighter game where they're constantly evolving and updating all the time with new characters being added. Some people can't keep up with that kind of meta game. It is quite ridiculous with that. So I just think that at some point the AAA gaming market does need to realise that times are changing, and actually they need to refocus more than anything.
Well, I'm gonna throw some chat at you because they're totally on point. I do like Jenny says, Fortnite for the win, lol. Fortnite.
I've not got anything against Fortnite, by the way. Just good examples. Just never touched it. It's like
no, and this is where I have a problem.
Be honest.
Go on.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, I'm gonna be honest. If Max didn't do a community night night, I probably would have never touched Fortnite. It's not my type of game normally.
No, and actually one of the things that I used to really love actually was playing Fall Guys, which is a live service game. Absolutely love that game. Really, really fun. But with recent updates, they've essentially kind of killed the game. Like they've reduced it down from 60 players to 40 players and now to 32 players.
Oh, gosh.
It's like, how did it... I don't get where they're going with that. And also there's more community-driven levels, so they're not actually wanting to develop as much for the game. So, and it feels like they constantly have a season pass every 2 months. So it's always this recurring monetary value to it. And no, I've played Stumble Guys. It's a pile of crap.
Wait, okay. There's a few things I want to get to chat about. First of all, where is it? Pay $25 for one Ninja Turtle costume. Oh,
that's Street Fighter 6 did that.
Yeah, no.
Absolute
Mortal Kombat 1 being a massive offender. Jenny, Gardenscapes on mobile. Whoop whoop. Hell yeah.
One other thing on the buying fighting characters. One thing that makes it even worse is if you have a downloadable character that is then better because they have longer reach or they just have a higher strength stat. So you're playing against someone and they might win not because they're better than you, because they've paid extra to buy a character that is better, and it's like that beats the point of playing a competitive game.
They actually had that real problem on Smash Bros. Ultimate when every single DLC character came out. They were ridiculously overpowered and broken for the first few months, and then they got balanced eventually.
Sincho says not only MK1, SF6, and Tekken 8 as well. Their in-game shops are so trash. OMG. Jenny says all the season passes. Sincho says shout out to Grand Blue Fantasy Versus for having an in-game shop with in-game currency which you can acquire freely. I do like that, which lets you purchase entire characters. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, but remember they also had that same system in Street Fighter 5 but made everything so ludicrously expensive that you couldn't actually buy anything.
You've got to get the balance right, haven't you? You've got to have things where you can pay a little bit to speed things up, but if you want to put the time in, you can get it. It's like, if you do, it's like, I think it was on this Battlefront games. Yeah, they got under a lot of fire, didn't they, for the loot things? It's not like you could play for 50 hours to get Darth Vader, or you could pay a $5 and then get the chance of possibly getting Darth Vader from a loot pack and things like that. I don't know exactly on the numbers, but it did seem like pretty dodgy,
Yeah, and the gamers kicked up a fuss about that, and they took that option away. So
yes, they did.
When gamers unite, they can succeed and do good things. Proven by the Helldivers 2 situation.
Yeah. I will say this before I go on to chat. Is me and Max played Suicide Squad. We've been playing Suicide Squad for a while now. I think it's like we've put in like 24 hours, which is like a full day. But this last time it was a grind session for like 5 hours or whatever, and we got Joker. But in that 5 hours, which don't get me wrong, I was glad that we could earn Joker or whatever. I got like going through the battle pass. I got like 2 outfits or 2 costumes or whatever. But if I paid money, I would have had something like, 25, extra things. I'm not sure how I feel about that because I'm putting in the work in that, someone else is putting it's the equal amount of work, but because they paid more money, they unlock more abilities, they unlock more emotes, they all this kind of stuff. I've never quite sat well with that. And I'll tell you who else did that, and that's Halo Infinite when it first launched.
Oh, God, what a mess that season pass system was.
That first season pass system was just bad. And that's kind of what this Suicide Squad's battle system very feels like that first season of Halo Infinite.
That's the problem, is that was like it has been with Fortnite and every other live service game out there where you don't necessarily gain enough XP to actually unlock most things.
Exactly.
But they're expecting you to pay money to upgrade to the premium pass to then get more stuff to unlock.
I'm happy to grind. I like grinding. I played the original Final Fantasy VII, so I'm all about grinding. Having to grind 5 hours to get a few levels, and it's the same thing over and over. I don't know, that didn't quite sit well with me.
I wonder if there's other like younger generations that have been introduced to gaming with that model, how they feel about it, because that might be normal for them. Like, okay, you pay a subscription, you get access to games, and if there's a game you like, you can drop a bit of money on it, and you buy this, buy that in that game, and that might be completely normal, and they're fine with it. Because I grew up buying a game in a case and plugging it into my machine, and you buy the game, you own the game. That was the transaction. That was it. These new gaming models just don't sit very well with me, and it's weird, almost a bit stubborn about it. Because the main example for me was when Candy Crush was a big thing.
Oh,
again, I mentioned earlier, I'm not a big mobile gamer, but I think everyone was. I like everyone played Angry Birds, and I played Candy Crush because I had the commute, and I was on my tablet. It's like you do get these things, and I would play Candy Crush. Now, if they said, right, Candy Crush is £10 or £20, I'm more likely to go, oh yeah, okay, I'll buy Candy Crush for 20 quid.
Right.
Because they're like, oh, Candy Crush is free, and you have your turn. It's like, you're one move away from winning. Yeah, you can replay the level, or you can pay 50p to get an extra turn. And I'm being manipulated by this game. You're not having my 50p. Screw you. And then do the level 8 times before I beat it to avoid paying 50p. I would probably end up spending way less than the 20 quid that I'd be willing to drop on it if I occasionally did buy my 50p moves, but I wasn't willing to keep feeding small amounts of money into the game. And it's just my own mentality of it. It's like, no, I don't like that model. Yes. But I think obviously that model is successful, so I guess there's other people that just don't feel that way. And I think it depends what your introduction into gaming was. My introduction into gaming was, retro, Mega Drive kind of stuff, buy a game, own a game. And these new models of like freemium games and things like that are just difficult for me to accept.
Yeah, it's the same thing with me, like years and years ago when playing things like Smash Bros. Melee, where you would keep your console on for 24 hours just to unlock Mewtwo, like the last character that you could get. And then you come to things like Smash Bros. 4 and Smash Ultimate, where you're having to buy characters just to do it. And yet you're still having the unlock method, but it's not nearly as entertaining as it is actually just going and playing the game for fun.
I rarely buy extra character stuff, but I did buy the DLC for Terry Bogard. And that came out in Smash Bros. Ultimate because I love, Terry Bogart's one of my favourite fighting games characters. I'm buying that.
I bought the amiibo. The others, I bought the damn amiibo just because of it.
That's P right there. Well, Jenny makes a good point, actually. Yeah, but the people at gaming conventions are a bit different to Joe Blogs, in my opinion. I mean, that is true. We are a different breed. And yes, then you know what? That actually is a good point. that we should probably address. All three of us, we went to WASD. WASD. We got to see the indie games that were just...
Mm-hmm.
There were just tons of them. We had a list, and it was tons of them. So we know where to go. We know, Steam. We know what the titles are and everything like that. The average person doesn't know. The average gamer, because we're talking about gamers here.
Yeah.
The average gamer doesn't necessarily know that because they're not going to be on, Steam going through the list or whatever. So that's kind of a valid point. Like, how do these indie gaming, indie developers, how do they get their games into the hands of the average gamer? And are we going to see more, more output for that? Either one of you can.
It's always going to be tough for an indie developer to be able to get to the sort of scope that a AAA developer is going to be able to, because they don't necessarily have the same sort of budgets that everyone else does. So it's always going to be hard. And also when you have a system that is kind of weighted against you, where a AAA developer can spend extra money on inflating their place on a storefront, it's always going to be difficult. The cards are always going to be stacked against them. But there is the key fundamental point that is going to get true to quite a few people, is that word of mouth. Word of mouth is your best advertisement that you've got. If you've got enough people who are talking about the game, eventually it's going to get into the hands of gamers. Look at the success that Undertale had, where that game captured the hearts and minds of most people, because one, it played on the nostalgia of Earthbound and Mother, but also the fact that it was free to play and got passed around like it was some dirty little secret for a while, and then it just became mainstream. The word of mouth made that game what it is, and that led on to obviously Toby Fox going on to do bigger and better things with making Deltarune and working with Nintendo and various other projects. So it does have an effect, and you eventually, like, a storefront like Steam is going to have quite a lot of indie games on there, and they do. So it's going to get into the hands of people eventually.
Right. I will say this, and Tim, you can absolutely offer your perspective. There's a game, Pacific Drive. Not only did Mag streamed it, but it wasn't just that. The marketing guy, one of the marketing guys, was part of Mag's chat and actually became part of our chat for a very long time. If he had not done that, I would not have known this game existed. This game is right up my alley. It's everything that I'm into about games, and it is an indie game, obviously. So, do you feel that there's almost this kind of, and I kind of said this earlier, but we didn't really expand on it, but do you think there's this kind of drive, excuse the pun, for an almost organic kind of like Twitch and even YouTube Let's Plays or whatever, that's going to bring up the indie games? Or do they need to kind of maybe follow the AAA pattern and just invest a lot of money in their marketing, which kind of seems not so indie? But Tim, what do you think? Like this word of mouth, like Pete's saying, and
I was thinking about that. When Pete said word of mouth, I would say that's where I get my gaming recommendations from. Is I play games that other people recommend to me. Whereas back in the day, it used to be magazines, and don't think magazines are really as big of a thing now. People don't really tend to get magazines and articles, so you are getting your information not from obviously people like IGN and stuff are still around, and you go to the big heavy hitters, but you'd also take a lot of stuff just from YouTubers and Twitch streamers and people that you like. Okay, you find someone that's got a similar taste in games to you and you follow them and they start playing game and you go, oh yeah, I'm going to get that. So I think that's where a lot of my gaming choices come from, is just from talking to people on streams, and chatting to guests we have on the RGR lives, and go, oh, actually, I've never heard of that. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah.
I'll start playing it. It's like, that's great. So a lot of the games I play just from recommendations. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm playing Batman because I kind of got bullied into it by Blunters, because like, you've not played Batman Arkham games, you've got to play them. I was like,
yeah, how have you not played the Batman games? That is a tragedy.
I don't know, because I'm also, a big comic book fan, and I like, Marvel and DC. I think it's bypassed me. I was busy playing. I think I played Oblivion and Skyrim a lot.
I mean, that would take up a lot of time, to be fair.
Yeah,
I think I spent like a year playing Oblivion, and I was like, other games have come out. Other games exist.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say this, and then I'll continue with chat, because it kind of applies to this. But this is not a joke, and I've said this before. When the Xbox 360 dropped, so did Halo 3. For 1 year solid, I played nothing but Halo 3. I didn't play any other games. So I totally 100% understand that. It wasn't until after a year I was like, maybe I should try this game called Fallout. Dead Rising and Oblivion. And once I did that, it was great. But no, I totally understand that. And actually, Mag says in regards to Fortnite, almost said Fallout, I hadn't played it till 2 years ago. It was my community that got me into it, which kind of goes back to the word of mouth. Maybe word of mouth is more successful than we're giving it credit for. Maybe that is what we should be focusing on.
The word of mouth has always been the most prevalent way to advertise your game. Like, the minute someone gets word that something is decent, and they will go and see it. You look at how it was with the movie industry back in the 70s and the 80s. Yes, you had magazines and reviewers telling you that things were good, but things like Star Wars, Indiana Jones wouldn't have blown up the way that they did had it not been for people turning around and going, oh my God, you've got to go and see this movie. There are certain games out there where people have gone, you need to play this game. Like I said, with Undertale being the main one for me in terms of the indie game scenes. I kept getting told I needed to play that game. Didn't believe them until I played that game, and now I tell everyone they need to go and play that game.
They do. Yes. If you haven't played Undertale, please go play it. Brent says, and I have to say this because it's a known thing. It's a meme at this point. Obligatory Warframe is best F2P live service game, especially considering they have never charged for their battle pass. Brent has been singing the praises of Warframe for about 3 years now.
And that's why I keep mentioning Undertale, because Undertale still should have won our game of the decade against it.
Oh gosh, yes. Cincho says, looking at you, King of Fighters 13, worst offender with broken DLC characters.
Oh, this is the annoying thing about King of Fighters 13. There was a fundamentally amazingly good game under there, but it was just ruined by SNK Playmore's terrible business practice at the time.
Mag says, in regards to Suicide Squad, I think it will get more grindy. They really need to do something to make the game better. Yes, I mean, obviously, I love grinding with Mags. Take that as you will. But the game itself, I just did that because of Pete's response. The game itself, it's kind of samey, and we're not getting as much reward off of it.
You need that reward cycle, don't you? Of like, you need to have a certain amount of time, you get a reward, and you get something else, and then you got to grind some. But if it gets to the point where, you've got to grind for a really long time before you get the next thing, that puts me off. You've got to have small incremental achievements and rewards for playing.
100% that. A long time ago, probably a decade now, the guys behind, I say the guys, but I mean,
the team
behind World of Warcraft, they released their formula for how they keep gamers addicted. And it was very much that. It was like, give a reward after the, like you just grind a little bit and you get a reward. It's not a great reward, but it's enough, and it keeps
you get a little bit more. I tell you, one game that did that really well was Palworld. I think that's why Palworld, because obviously Palworld got a lot of attention because of obviously the whole, it looks very similar to Pokemon thing. So a lot of people are talking about it. It's like, but they have guns. It's like Pokemon with guns. Right, I'm going to give this a try. But the reason I actually enjoyed the game when I played it is because of how often you get new things. Like, you start off with nothing and you have to like pick up wood off the floor and pick up rocks, and then you can make a pickaxe, and then you can start cutting down trees, and then before you know it, you're building buildings, and then you've got to try and maintain your base, but you're constantly getting a new feature added probably like every few minutes, to be honest. It felt like every now and then you'd be like, oh, got this, oh, there's a new power that I haven't seen before, oh, I can now get this material, that means I can build this, which means I can build that, and you just keep going. And it's one of the few games in a while where I kept on like going to stop playing and turning off. Like, oh, before I turn off, I'm just going to do this. Because the task would take like a few seconds, and then I get something for doing that task. But actually, I'm just going to play a little bit longer, and then you'd be there for ages going, oh yeah, one more thing.
That is exactly. Yeah. I am a sucker for that kind of, that style. Brent says, if you forgot, Warframe's business model is to fold. They sell some things that allow you to save time, but mostly get income from cosmetics, which I do agree with. I like that. Not to mention that the premium currency is a tradable item in the game, so you can sell things to other players, yes, that you want without ever opening your wallet. Again, mentioning WoW. WoW was the first game that I personally noticed ever did that. I'm not a WoW player, but I've had a lot of friends that are.
Well, yeah, you had things like the Diablo free marketplace, didn't you, as well, and the auction house that had stuff like that.
Exactly. I was about to talk about the auction house. That was the first time I ever heard of in-game currency, because again, I'm not a WoW player, but I have a lot of friends that are, and they would talk about this auction house type thing. And I found it kind of interesting that they could sell things in game and got gold for it, and then that gold could then purchase other things. I like that. I think that's fine. I think that's great. It's when you have that in-game currency that is not earnable in game, you have to purchase it. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I think that becomes play to win. Or pay to win, sorry.
Yeah, and it's also the fact that obviously when you're purchasing premium currency, they never give you packs to pay for as much or as little as you want. It's always an incremental amount. There's never enough to pay for something.
Yeah, and Jenny makes a good point. My kids want anything they've seen on YouTube or their friends playing, so back to word of mouth being the best marketing tool. I have to agree. Mag says the only reason I knew about the game was because of WASD in September. I forgot what game we were talking about. But let's see. I don't know. YouTube Let's Plays are kind of dead now. No, it's not.
No, it's more the fact that they've gone onto Twitch than anywhere. Like, people are still watching them.
No, I still watch my YouTube Let's Plays religiously.
Yeah, I don't watch as many now, but obviously if there's a game that I'm interested in but not willing to, I'm still unsure about, I will go onto Twitch and just have a little look of a playthrough of it.
Get your bingos cards out, because I'm still watching Call Me Kevin, The Fabulous Krusty, and Let's Game It Out.
Of course you
are. Let's see. Centro says, Mag, a scene now available with 8.5 out of 10 pages. That is a in-house joke. Brent says, Sinjo, there's not much of the daily limits, especially if we're talking about Warframe, by the way. Especially if you're not playing 24/7. Mastery tests, I lost it, are once a day, but you can practice infinitely. Nightmare missions are once a day, but there are like 20 of them, so good luck doing them all each day. Anyway, Nana says, yes, King of Fighters 13 had so many problems. Brent says, game of the generation.
He was right.
I don't remember the game of the decade. Centro says, Evo 2012 grand finale of King of Fighters 13 is still one of the greatest sets ever, though. I think he would agree with that.
Unbelievably good. Like, I'd say most of the Ultimate Marvel free sets that they had in the years that it was there, some of those grand final sets were unreal.
And then I love the auction house in D3. Yes, because I almost made half the money back I paid for the god-awful game. Yeah, that is what I've heard.
Right, anyway, shall we have some closing thoughts and wrap this up? Because we have deviated a hell of a lot away from Xbox, haven't we? But makes sense.
Yes, and then we'll have a little post-show with our wonderful guest, Tim. And again, thank you to Max for joining us.
For the short appearance that he did come on for.
No, not short.
I meant short amount of time.
But yes.
And short in stature.
I am not justifying that with a comment. But anyway, yes. So to get us back on track, yes, that was our little.
I think he's justified it in the comments himself by saying tidy appearance.
I would disagree, but we're not going to go there. So let's flip it back. Okay, so as we go into, what are we in, Q3 now? No, we're in Q2, aren't we?
I'm still in Q2, just about.
We're about to enter Q3.
It depends on which way you're looking at it. We're still in Q1 financial, but Q2 year.
Because it's January to March.
Mm-hmm.
April to June. Okay, so we're in Q2.
Yeah.
Do you see, and I'll start with you, Tim, and then we'll go to Pete. Do you see Microsoft pulling out any kind of last minute, like game of play, like little last minute, Microsoft's back on top type of thing? What do you think?
Not for a little while, I think. I think this has been a first step. I think this is they've obviously got a bit of a plan. This is a phased approach. I think this is phase one of several. So I don't know if we're going to see anything like that just yet. I think it's going to be a wait and see approach. And I just hope that they don't unreasonably increase the cost of Game Pass and then lose more people. I think they've lost a lot of goodwill at the moment. So I think they might lay low for a bit, perhaps, and wait till the dust settles, and we'll see what happens next.
I have to say I agree with Tim on that one, but Pete, your thoughts on, here we are at Q2. Do you think Microsoft's going to pull out a little last minute, play?
Well, we've got the showcase in June, so I think if they already had plans of what they were going to reveal there, this is going to be cemented even more so that they're going to need to have a big show to show off not only to prospective buyers and customers, but actually the shareholders that might be losing faith in what they're doing, because we have to remember that their AAA releases have not exactly been up to scratch over the last few years, and they haven't exactly captured the hearts and minds of the gamers either. So they need a big show. I reckon they're going to come out and bring out a few of the stops, but I think the next time that we might hear something pretty major is sort of towards the back end of the year, where we might hear a few things at the Game Awards, but that's about it from them for this year. I think they're going to lay low for a little bit and let the dust settle, because, to be honest, COD will come out in October and it'll make them a lot of money, and they won't care about anything else after that for a while.
That is very true. I don't think, I can agree with you there. Brent says, I think phase one was all about the acquisitions. Yeah. We're in phase two of restructuring.
Yeah, yes, can't disagree.
I agree with that.
Phase 3 is going all digital and subscription based, and no more consoles being produced.
Well,
even though they said they've got to focus on consoles.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to wrap up this portion, the podcast portion. But you can always check us out at twitch.tv/Rapid Reviews, pre and post show, where we get a little bit naughty. And it's always fun. And just come have fun with us. But we're going to wrap this up. So, Tim, where can we find you? Where are you? What's your little doodad and podcast and YouTube?
So we are Retro Game Revival, or I am one of a group of 4 that do Retro Game Revival. We're primarily, our content is on YouTube, but we are on Twitter and Instagram. We've got a Facebook group which has quite a lot of conversations going. But yeah, if you just search for Retro Game Revival on YouTube, you should find us. We do mostly interviews, but we've got quite a few regular podcasts at the moment. We talk quite a lot about the Evercades. We've got Total Evercade podcast. We have modern consoles monthly as well, because we like to talk about modern gaming too. And they also have what we call our uncensored stream, where we say it's the show where anything can happen, but it's probably going to be us talking about games. And then but whatever other content we have find time to make. So we'll also do like a few sort of 5 hidden PlayStation games you might not have played, and all the kind of stuff that everyone does. And those sort of things. So when we've got time, we make a few other little things. I think me and Ollie have got some plans for some doing more deep dive documentary type stuff as well, if we have the time. But Mondays at 8 we're always on. So we've got a different show each Monday at 8 o'clock.
Excellent. And the link to them will be to the YouTube channel, and their socials will be in the show notes for you to check out.
Please do. They're amazing. So glad we met them over Wednesday. Pete, what about you and all your special, fun, extra podcasts that you do?
First of all, I'm just going to mention, obviously, don't forget Timeless Gaming Convention in August. 15% off at checkout using code RAPID24. So, Timeless Gaming Convention, August 14th in Arcade Club in Bury. We will be there.
Someone, just buy one ticket using our thing. Nana, if you're still
I won't drop my code then tonight. I will save that. I was going to say, and
but you drop the code. You can right? you can if you like.
Well, I presume our code is RGR. I think it's just code RGR. Ollie knows the details. I am not the.
Okay, we'll save that one for Mondays at 8 o'clock.
If you're a listener of RGR, go use their code. But if you're Nana or any of our other followers, please use our code. I just want one.
The most important thing is you use the code and you go to the event. So
yes!
Well, yeah, let's just show some love to the to conventions themselves, because they're great.
We're all gonna be there, and it's gonna be fun. And it's gonna be just so cool. A lot of our chat is actually gonna be there. It's just gonna be fun as heck.
I'm bringing my microphone along. We're gonna do a random recording whilst we're there. We're gonna drag as many people in as we can. It's gonna go full Gonzo style.
Well, I'm gonna be in my Mag's #1 fan T-shirt, which is an electric scrawler that says Mag's #1 fan.
Brilliant.
And so come get your picture with me, because that's what I do.
Yeah. Anyway, I will. Never Watchers podcast. That is the other podcast that I do. It's movie, TV show orientated. Yeah. We had a bit of a delay on going back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but we are recording in a couple of days' time where we're covering Echo. So, hear my thoughts on that and over the next week when it does release. So yeah, you can check that out on most podcast players at the Never Watchers.
If you want to follow me, I'm over at KILEY_WILDE on Twitch. I just would like to, it's probably not going to happen, but I would like to get a Twitch affiliate before I go to TwitchCon.
Let's hope so.
Because I would like the TwitchCon affiliate stuff.
Yes.
They get cool free stuff. And I don't want to walk around without free stuff. That's not fair.
Yes. Please check out Grins and Giggles with Jenny Sparkles as well.
Yes. Which will hopefully start back up soon. But yes, I think that's going to do it for the podcast portion. Again, please stick around for the post show where we get to drink and smoke and cuss and stuff. But that's not actually true. Well,
some of it's true.
Kind of is true. But we want to thank Tim so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
And we want to thank Mags again for being here. Thank you so much. Because he was very busy, so he gave us time. And I think that's going to do it for us for the podcast portion. So we will see you and talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hi.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Rapid Reviews Radio podcast. You can find the podcast on Anchor FM, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and various other podcast platforms. You can also find the video version by searching Rapid Reviews on YouTube and watch the podcast recording live on Twitch at twitch.tv/rapidreviews at 7:30 p.m. UK time every Sunday. Please make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at RRRadiopod, and for all the latest reviews, visit www.rapidreviewsuk.com or on Twitter at RapidReviewsUK.